my first rental experience and how I got it, how it went, and how it ended. So in the beginning, I had worked at my job for about a year before I started thinking I need to get out on my own, not live in my mom's basement anymore. That was not fun at all. So I thought, okay, my close family member had bought a house and he got approved for $20,000 more than I did. He worked at the same place I did, and I only wanted a $40,000 house. So I called her up and I talked to the banker and I said, hey, I'm looking to buy a house for $40,000. You know, what are the things I need to do to make that happen? I said, do you have 3 years of credit history, you know, cell phone bill, loan payments, anything like that? I didn't have any of that. I didn't know really what credit score was or anything. And so after she told me no, I called another bank. They told me no. Called another bank. They told me no. I got denied for a Quick Trip credit card, which I think they hand those things out like candy these days. But I couldn't even get one of those. The only credit card I could get was a Cabela's credit card. And I still have it to this day because it helps with my credit history, and the length of credit history is very important. And if I was to drop that account, those 7-8 years of that credit history being good for that one card would close and would bring my time way down. So I still have that card today. So I was kind of feeling down on myself. I thought, how the heck can he get a bigger loan? And he worked part-time at the same place and I worked full-time. I thought it was something that had to do with me. And really, I don't think it was. But I was thinking it was a bit unfair at the time. And playing a little bit of that victim card, which I don't play anymore. But back then I was feeling a little sorry for myself and just a little down. And my uncle was in town. He's a real estate investor, and I was telling him about the situation. He said, hey, let's go down the road and talk to this bank and just see what they say. I'm like, all right, I have nothing to lose. What's the worst that could happen? So we go over and we talk to the banker, and he asked me where I worked, how much I made an hour, what kind of credit, what kind of credit card debt I had, what kind of school loans I had, any of that. I didn't have any of that. And I said, the only thing I have is a truck payment for $80 a month. And he goes, that's it? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, we definitely can get you approved for a $40,000 house, no problem. He said, we do require 20% down, but since you're a first-time home buyer, you only have to put 10% down. And 5% of that was a grant. And then the other 5% was put on the back of the loan. And so I ended up only having to put 10% down, which is around $4,000-ish, and at closing was really cheap too. Closing costs were really cheap. So we bought the house, me and my wife, and we lived there for about a year, and we figured we needed, I wanted to get out of town. I grew up on an acreage. I like living on an acreage. I like the peace and quiet. So we moved, and I thought instead of selling the house, let's rent it out. And that really wasn't a big hit at first. I had no idea what I was doing. I just thought, wealthy people have rental property. Let's just try it out, see how it goes. And little did I know how it really was. And so I had so many people telling me that it's terrible. Tenants are going to destroy everything. You're going to have so many problems, right? But I had my uncle, which was the one who helped me at the bank. He talked to the banker. We talked to the banker. He had property, and he lived in Arizona, and he had rental property. He had it for 20 plus years. And he said, this might be the smartest thing you ever do. And I just thought, okay, I'm going to listen to him because he's done it. He's been through it. He didn't say it was going to be easy, but he just said it would be smart and worth it. I thought, okay, let's give this a shot. So we ended up, I think we put it out on Craigslist. And I do not really recommend putting your rental on Craigslist. But after some people we kind of denied and got through them, but there was one guy who came across, and he had a good job, clean cut, had a nice car, really had everything going for him as far as what you would want to see, what I thought you'd want to see in a tenant back then. And so we signed a lease, got him all ready to go, and honestly had no problems. He was great at communicating, always paid his rent on time, never had an issue. And then about a year went by, and I got a call from the sheriff's office. They said, hey, someone had broke down the door at your property and your tenant is going to get help somewhere. I don't know if it was mental health treatment or what, but he was going to get help and there was no way of getting in contact with him. I wasn't getting any rent money. I didn't know what to do. And so I had reached out to the Landlord Association in Mason City, and I went to a meeting. The president introduced himself. I kind of explained my situation, and he really walked me through the whole eviction process, which was what I had to do to legally get him out of the property and so I can rent it out to the next person. And so the president of the Landlord Association really helped me a lot, and I'm still very, very thankful for that. You know, there was a few times I messed up on the paperwork, and there was one time I took partial payment and then I had to redo my notice, because in Iowa you cannot take partial payment and give someone you can't give someone a 3-day notice and then give them a partial and then receive a partial payment. And so I didn't know that, and I made that mistake, and he says you have to serve another 3-day notice. So I had to go back, just put the notice on the door, take a picture, go back again, because you got to do it twice, take another timestamped photo. And so I did all that, and he really walked me through it. I had probably, I think, some issues filing, or probably with the dates, getting the court hearing scheduled, and really the president of the Landlord Association really helped me with that, and I'm very thankful, again, because I couldn't afford a lawyer at the time. I didn't want to get involved in any of that. I was 23 years old, filing an eviction on someone. And so got to the courtroom, and he wasn't able to show up, and so his mom was there, and his mom was an older gal, and the judge said she couldn't represent her son in the court, and so that I automatically won. And then she was getting kind of emotional, and we asked her what the issue was, and she didn't know how she was going to move all the big items by herself. And I said, hey, me and a buddy, shout out Taylor, he helped me. I said, me and a buddy can come help. We'll get a storage unit, and we'll move all the big stuff over there. It was only like a block away. She was extremely grateful, thankful. She took care of all the small stuff, got that all boxed up, and we moved everything over the storage unit on the eviction day, where they call it a forcible entry and detainer, where the sheriff will show up, but they didn't have to show up. They only show up when they have to. But in this case, they didn't have to show up. It was a peaceful deal. And so we ended up moving him out, and everything went good. And I think a lot of people had thought that I had learned my lesson. I was going to quit being foolish and not do rental properties. But I think not even a month or two later, I bought my next one. And I found that one for sale by owner. And so I thought, if an eviction is one of the worst things that can happen to a landlord, this wasn't so bad. I could do this again. And I've evicted another person after that, but that was because I bought the house knowing that was going to be the case. But in this case, it ended up being pretty good, and I thought, if this is worst case scenario, this is something I can definitely handle. And luckily I had some good support, and there was good information available. I had to go find it, but luckily I didn't have to look too far. And that landlord association has been very good and a very big blessing. And there's hundreds of years of knowledge in that room, and I thought I'd be foolish if I didn't take advantage of that. So I thought if an eviction's the worst thing, piece of cake, right? But that was a naive 23-year-old Matt. And there's a lot of other things besides an eviction that could go wrong. But all in all, it was good. That house has been a great rental for me. It's been my best one, I would say, as far as getting quality tenants in and not having maintenance calls. Single story, 2-bedroom, 1-bath. So that was my experience as my first rental property. That's how I got it, how I rented it, and how it ended up going down. But all in all, that would scare a lot of people. But it really wasn't as bad as people make it sound. It really was pretty easy once I got through my first one. The second one, I still think I messed up on the paperwork one time, but the second time I got it and everything was fine. So don't let an eviction scare you if that's going to be one of your big hiccups on not wanting to buy rental properties. Is, you think, oh, the tenants are going to trash it and I'm gonna evict people and it's going to be terrible. It's really not that bad at the end of the day. I've had one instance where somebody just basically walked up and left the property, took the necessities and just left. And that was a few days of cleaning, and then that was a few more days of fixing. And so that was my worst one, and that was like a week or so worth of work. I did some more upgrades while I was doing that, but all in all, it ended up being a pretty good deal, and I'm glad I didn't let that first one scare me. And so it ended up being a good, positive experience overall. And I thought to myself, if that's the worst case, an eviction, which most people are scared of, I can handle this. It really wasn't that bad. And so I bought my next one shortly after. And I think some people thought I was kind of crazy. They thought I learned my lesson from this rental deal. But I think overall it's a great investment. It's got great tax benefits. And so that was kind of my story on my first rental property. It ended up with an eviction and the sheriff's calling me and a lot of fear in that short amount of time. But overall, it was a good experience. I wouldn't have traded it for anything. It taught me if that's kind of the worst that goes on, I can handle this. Not a big deal. So I thought during this blizzard, I'd share that little story of my first rental property and how it went. So hope you enjoyed. Stay warm.